Welcome to Moving the Rock. Whether sales is all you do or only part of what you do, the strategies and tactics of success can often feel split between two realities. You can become someone you're not to earn the recognition and praise of people you don't respect, or you can try to figure it out on your own, knowing you'll underperform your potential. We're here to offer a third way.
The idea that you can't have success without compromise is just wrong. You don't have to compromise to win in the long term. You can play the game in such a way that you win in the short term and the long term. Through our hard lessons learned, we can shift your way of thinking and create a better way. I'm Chris, founder of SiteShift.
And I'm James, founder of Florist Group. If you're tired of the status quo, we're here to help you move the rock on your career, your business, and your life. Welcome.
All right, Jimmy, we're here doing the thing.
Yeah, Friday.
Woo! We've been taking a journey on this that has been so fun. And I'm going to say a number here that might blow people's minds if they're just tuning in. We are on part 12. And somebody goes, well, I'm going to stop listening right now because I hadn't heard the other 11. No. You wouldn't have to have heard the other 11. They're all threaded together. It's a journey, but you can jump in on this one and get something, and it'll entice you to go back and hear the rest of them. So that sounds like a good time to have on a Friday to me.
Why not? Two curious guys with a cocktail. I'm just kidding. I wish I had a cocktail. A fireplace and, just shooting the shit. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So as we build on where we were last session, we really dove deep into this idea of helping you as a leader in sales stay on the journey for the long haul. It's one thing to reach success. It's another thing. Can you sustain it? Can you take the new ground, and then can you hold the ground? So that was where we were spending some effort and energy, giving people a way to understand that. Now, what we want to do here is really run through the tape. We've got a finishing piece to put in place. And if you don't have this finishing piece, you're not going to be ready for that inevitable moment that comes. You take these other parts and you apply them, you are going to climb the mountain. You're going to move the rock. You're going to hit the peak. But peaks don't last forever, do they?
Yeah, the peak might stay there, but I might fall off, right? Either I'm not smart enough or focused enough, or just, life has a way of just bringing that velvet 2x4 right across your jaw and just saying, hey, it's time to wake up, break out of that complacency or that lull of self-satisfaction or whatever it might feel like.
Yeah. Well, and as a leader, it's essential to keep advancing. And so, you can either get knocked off or you reach that peak, you keep advancing, you went up, you're going to go down. And I know we don't want to think about that, but motivation can shift, market can shift, and the people that learn how to stay on the climb, thus the title of this podcast show, Keep the Rock Moving, are people that appreciate this reality that these valleys come. We keep moving, and it's the valley that helps us enjoy the peak. If it was all flat, it wouldn't feel as fun. But it doesn't mean it is simple or easy or doesn't take its toll. We find the way to keep advancing. So when we start talking about getting knocked off the peak or inevitably coming to something's decline, our sales leadership process stops being as effective. It's gone from great to good. We built it from good to great, but now it's going from great to good. Our team has a little bit of atrophy or lethargy in it. There's not a vision that we're all rallied around that is activating our best. What comes to mind for you, Jimmy, when you've walked teams and individuals through this?
Well, it feels very personal for me. I'm the kind of person that likes to be solving puzzles. And I've recognized that I'm the kind of guy that can get to that peak of success, but get bored. I don't know how I can articulate it well, right? I haven't probably gotten the right I haven't spoken to the right professional yet who can help me synthesize what's going on with me. But I think I get bored, or I don't feel like I can add value or something. And I will take 3 steps back just so I have another puzzle to solve, you know? And I do it with my exercise. I'll hit that peak, and then the motivation to get back in the gym is tougher. I can do it with my business. If I'm not careful, I can get to a peak, and then I can self-destruct. And I think I also, Chris, I think it's very common for us as human beings to not live in that middle, right? It's either good or bad. And I tend to be a very judgmental type of person. So I live in good, bad, will or won't work, can or can't do it. And I have to stop myself and think in a more sophisticated way about what else is possible. Like, there is something in the middle. There's something between those extremes.
Yeah. I love that you brought up such practical examples. Thinking of working out, man, it's like when you first start back, if you've missed for a while, it feels amazing. Like you're sore, you see the effects.
Right.
But then, you hit those plateaus. And sometimes you hit a plateau, and sometimes you maybe hit something else in another part of your life that wrecks your ability to go to the gym. This reverberating effect from one category or piece of the pie in one part of your life spills over to the other parts. And so appreciating that means this. The nature of change is so dynamic. It's not static, that people like us, and that I think is most of the people who are going to most likely be listening to this, are activated by the challenge. So what we have to be careful of is, because we bring a lot of energy into ordering chaos. Once things get very ordered, we can actually introduce chaos in a self-sabotaging way to get ourselves engaged again. We see this a lot with executive leaders because, for those that haven't learned the difference between lighting fires, fighting fires, and ignoring fires, often what got them started in their leadership journey was energy to solve the problem or fight the fire. And after they've been firefighting for a while, if they were effective, maybe they don't have a fire. And they'll often then, and there's a time to intentionally light a fire and create a urgency, they'll oftentimes create something, and now they're fighting a fire and they're complaining about it with like a smoldering match behind their back. And so if you're in a place where you feel like, man, you're never getting to that peak, you're never getting off that treadmill, sometimes there's a hard look to take in the mirror and go, am I doing something that is keeping me engaged but blocks me from being the kind of leader who sustains? What's that bring to mind for you?
I talk often about the first 15 years of my career as a salesperson, and the pressure created for me. Looking back, I didn't realize this during it, but during the time. But I worked with 8 different companies in a 15-year period, and what that created for me was a furnace. The kind of pressure that forced me to become a top performer within my first year on the job, which helped me create the WINS methodology and allow me to kind of come in and be that hero. And then, of course, later systematize it so I could help others. But, when I think about the reason why I needed to start over again was because I love that feeling, right? I could never not work for a startup. I could never not work for a company that wanted to achieve growth they had never achieved before. I always had to be part of something really difficult, solving difficult problems, to feel energized and to feel like I was doing something worthwhile. So I self-sabotage in that regard. I create a reason or excuse to leave each of those companies at the top, right? And looking back, you're like, wow, if I had stayed with that company and participated in that IPO, that would have been cool. So then you start looking.
Those 3 a.m. thoughts, man, they'll get you. Hey, question for you that is so related to this. What were you ever in one of those 8 companies and saw that they were about to peak out and hit a ceiling and thought some of it was self-sabotaging? So not taking that away from your awareness there for sure. But was there ever, maybe a secondary reality in those moves, or maybe a primary reality in some of them where you went, they're at the ceiling of who they're going to become, and to stay here is to drag me down?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And it's taken me time to parse, the explanation or the reason from the excuses, right? So you can self-sabotage and make up reasons that make you feel better about something you're doing that isn't really in your best interest. But yeah, there's no question. I mean, of those 8 companies, I still was able to participate in 5 exits, 2 IPOs, et cetera. But what I lost was what I couldn't imagine at the time. What I lost was the opportunity to stay and be part of something. And then, who knows what we could have done together, right? That commitment to a vision of the team that could have created something that either I was too immature or just was too self-involved to think about.
Yeah.
And of course that's changed, but
yeah, dude, thank you. Well, what we want to do is give people 3 keys how to evaluate an environment that is peaking so that they can be informed and aware. They can check themselves before they wreck themselves as the leader, or be educated about maybe they need to prepare to go. Now, we're not going to give you a way to recognize, although these 3 will apply, just plateaued or descending organizations. We're trusting that the listeners out there know that. What we want to help you do is see the conditions for the fire before there's a fire, to see the smoke before there's a fire. We're going to give you 3 realities that you can look for to recognize an organization that is peaking out and is going to start declining. You say, but I lead it and I'm going to see those? What? No, this will show you how to reinvent. This will show you what to look for. And the mistake that we can call out before we get into these 3 is when you are in a descending organization or a team that is peaking out or it's about to, the leadership starts making up for a lack of clarity or an increase in clarity with an increase in intensity. They just ramp up the pressure, ramp up the intensity, ramp up the hype speeches in the sales leadership meeting. As they turn these up, this is a clue and a signal. If they're not also turning up the clarity, they are doing what an organization that is in danger will do. Here's the first one. Number 1, the vision is stale. It's not fresh. The organizing metaphor that the team is rallying around isn't something that is stimulating their dopamine. When you are a part of a team, and if people listening to this have never been a part of a team that has this happening, then find a way to get in this environment, because you need to know what a real powerful environment can be like so you can start to train yourself for all the ways that most environments fall short. It's like counterfeit money. You don't learn what counterfeit money is by handling all the counterfeit, but by handling the real thing. Handle the real thing enough, be in a powerful winning atmosphere, you're going to learn that. So when you're a part of an environment where the vision isn't stale and the values are fresh and the strategy is passionately adopted by everyone, the organizing metaphor in their brain has them excited to sacrifice. That's the key. They're excited to sacrifice. So this clue, this big signal is something you got to watch out for. And I'm guessing you've never worked with a team or an organization that had a stale vision and metaphor.
No, I was going to ask you a question about this, because I think it's really interesting. When I left college, I worked for a year in the insurance industry, and there this is not to, pile on the lack of creativity in the insurance industry. They don't need it, right? They make gobs of money, but there are pockets of creativity. I was not in one of them. So at that time, so it was a state environment, and the only vision, the only inspiration was to just do your job, right? You were just doing stuff. And the only way you'd be happy in that job is if you had something outside of work that defined your life. And that just wasn't how I was built. I need to have my work, for right or wrong, be a big part of defining my life. So I guess a question back to you, could this be what you described? Companies are so poor often at codifying a vision and communicating that vision to their employees in a way that's sincere and authentic. And there are certainly exceptions out there that do it right. I wonder if this is why I was attracted to startups. And because when you're in a startup, there is so much that doesn't have to be organized and spoken to the team. You all know you have zero revenue. You all know, everyone knows they have to get more clients, and you don't need this articulate communication strategy. We're all feeling it. In fact, that's why we're all there for the same reason. So when an organization is struggling or is climbing that mountain, is it easier to codify a team and communicate that vision than when you're a large organization and maybe it's harder to find that vision, or harder to kind of intuitively see the things that can energize you outside of just doing your job?
Absolutely. There's a saying in organizational change that I love. It's easier to have a baby than raise the dead. So the idea being, in my experience, having led in 3 turnarounds, once people have lost heart and now they're defeatist, to get them to rally around a vision that it can turn around is so hard. To get a stagnant organization, or an organization that doesn't have to work too hard for it, like you were describing earlier, that's a medium challenge. It is easier in a startup to rally the troops, so to speak, and get everyone to sacrifice. But the sad part is, what they could be doing if there's not a lazy approach to this is embedding story, mythology, around this budding organization that would become a part of its canon of stories and values and the folklore. And so I do see some startups do it really, really well, but it's a little bit easier to do. And that's why, this is the 12th part of this journey. It's not at the beginning, it's the end, when that staleness starts to set in. And once that staleness is there with vision and values, the next thing that you're going to see is stuck systems. Things then begin to get this bureaucratic layered approach, and fix is put on top of fix, is put on top of fix, is put on top of fix, and nothing is really vibrant. Instead, it becomes very complicated. And so a healthy organization recognizes our visions become stale. We need to refresh. A healthy organization also then represents bureaucratic overload has taken over. Us making a change isn't as simple as it used to be. And, you've had a lot of experience in startups where it's you could talk about it in the meeting and it's executed by the next meeting. When in complicated environments where the organization has all these layers, things can be talked about forever. And before it's even decided on, it's already forgotten. And then the moment's lost. And this is so sad. And so, athletics is a great example here. The world-class elite coaches don't hype up with a speech and just increase the intensity. They give a very clear metaphor. that calls out everyone's sacrifice. After they do that, they shrink down what they expect of the player in the simplest execution. So they're constantly trying to reduce down so that they can say to that player, whatever the 3 things you need to always remember are. And so assign a clue that you're in an organization that is hitting a ceiling is this bureaucratic overload starts to take over. We don't use systems to serve us. Instead, we start serving the systems. Mm-hmm. And that's the big danger sign.
Yeah. So in a sales context, when you're coalescing a team, and this can be a team built in a 30-year-old company that just wants to optimize or improve their approach to market, take the sales skills and connections to the market away from the founders and put it into a team that can propagate growth over time as the founder moves away from the business. But whatever the transition is, guys like me and gals like me who enjoy problem solving, enjoy being the hero, they're going to tend to reject or feel marginalized by systems that are designed to say, look, we don't need you to be a hero. We need you to follow this approach. And that may also have been something that triggered my earlier departure from a lot of these organizations, was just the idea that I wasn't ready. And maybe I didn't believe in the system, because so often in sales, processes are forced onto a team that don't work, or that the team doesn't believe works for them, which again challenges their creativity and the value that they bring to the table, and signals the fact that they might not be of much value to the organization as they once were.
Yeah, I love it, because this is going to be such keen insight for people to dial into. Unhealthy leaders, especially as we've talked about the sales journey, fall to these extremes. And a healthy sales leader understands systems are absolutely essential and necessary. And we can upgrade them, not change them just to change them, but as we need to improve. And so in the early part of this journey, you're learning to appreciate systems. But in this part 12, you're going, okay, I've got an eye to develop where's something becoming complicated and bloated, and where do we need to improve it? It could go from good to great. And what's happening for so many people is either, as we know, in the early parts of this journey, sales leaders that don't have the systemic approach. Now it is, okay, you've been running with these systems. You've been an ascending organization and it works. And man, do it on repeat for years even. But at some point, it's going to stop working and it needs to be improved. So what you're learning to do as a leader in sales, is watch to make sure that the vision is hot and captures people's hearts. They're sacrificing for it. 2, that they're willing to embrace change to accomplish that vision. That's the big idea. That the vision is what we're focused on, and the change supports that. Rather than what happens in some organizations where we end up, just serving the complicated systems.
So, Chris, I have a question for you. So we talk about vision a lot. I'm just imagining my own situation where, there's a lot of value in being part of an organization that has a systematic approach, especially to sales, which is what we look to build today. So people might be asking, and I might be asking myself, why, James, did you start off not wanting systems, and now, as you've gotten older and wiser, why are you now championing systems? And how can you expect a hero, somebody who is used to delivering heroic efforts, how can you expect someone like that to adopt a system? And it comes back to this word that you use, vision, right? So, is it possible for the leader of an organization that is moving into a more systematic approach? And think of a professional football team. I mean, there are football teams out there that struggle to win half their games. And there are those that struggle to stay on top. Yeah, I might want to go turn around a poor performer, but man, I'd love to be part of a perennial winner. So, the vision is the same for both organizations, win a championship. But in the perennial winner that has the systems in place, it feels to me like, and Bill Belichick's famous quote, do your job, right? Is it possible that a player, someone like me in a sales environment, could simply adopt the vision of getting better at my job, and by doing so, allow me to find the excitement and energy in going to work every day because I'm attached to a vision that's very personal, and I don't, and I can I can let go of that desire to win a championship because now, by doing my job, I can be part of a team of other folks who are doing their job. And as long as I have faith in the coach, right, that should satisfy me.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, healthy leaders understand that it's my job to make meaning for the team, and it's their job to learn to make the meaning on their own. It's a symbiotic relationship. And part of the way that they can make the meaning is, I want to be excellent. I want to get better in sales every day. I want to learn. I want to grow. I'm hungry. But what you can do is recognize an organization, a team in sales that used to be ascending and is going to be descending because they increase the intensity, but not the clarity. So there's a stale vision, but they just yell louder. And there's stuck systems, right? And they just push harder. But for someone in the midpoint of their journey in being a leader of leaders in sales, learning how to make meaning with the collective team and or my individual contribution, both of those matter. Both of those matter. But for that leader in sales, they've got to make sure every player on the team knows, to your point about Bill Belichick, exactly what their job is. I do this way over and over and over again. And obviously that's something you experience all the time. People don't always know that. Very often do they? I think that's what's so fascinating, because we're using the sports analogy. I looked at now I can't remember his name, coach at the University of Alabama, where he had it broken down on a spreadsheet to every specific position, how to exploit it, what the exact details were. It was an amazing sheet to look at because it reflected such brilliance. There was no vagueness, and he could be intense about it as much as he wanted because it was so clear.
Yeah.
And when, and that's the thing that's so huge. And if you don't have that clarity, okay, and you're increasing the intensity, the vision gets stale, the systems get stuck. So stale vision, stuck systems, sad chemistry. Sad chemistry. You don't have this catalytic energy that happens where 1 + 1 = 3. Instead, the energy it takes to go to a meeting, right? To rally the troops, to advance the cause. The energy you would put into getting one step in a healthy organization and you'll get 5. In this setting, the energy you put to get 3 steps, you get a half step, or 2.5 steps, depending on where it is. So what we're doing is we're learning to recognize again where an organization's about to be descending. And it is in a place where there's not this chemistry of connection. We're not having fun anymore as a team. We're not knowing and being known. And these 3 will protect people if they learn to watch out for them. As leaders of leaders in sales, how to keep the organization ascending, and individual players, how to not let a brittle mindset hurt them, how to make their best contribution and move on if they need to.
Yeah. So challenging. So many people think of sales, especially as salespeople are coin operated. They're going to be self-motivated. And oftentimes managers, because they were top producers, simply have the title of manager, but they just do the same thing over and over again. They just join the rep in the pursuit of deals, and they don't provide the level of leadership that you're talking about. We don't know how to. We've been trained.
And listen to the outro. Get some help. Right. So hopefully today, as we close this 12-part journey out, you can see this is how you run through the tape. To be that kind of leader who has the courage to not trick themselves into whatever reality they wish was there, but to really own it. To not just increase the intensity, but increase the clarity by asking, is the vision fresh? Do the systems need to be updated? And is the chemistry working? Are we having a relationship here, an environment of 1 + 1 = 3? And if they can do that, they'll train themselves to be the kind of leader who can keep climbing those peaks.
Yeah. Man, it's awesome. Now it's just a matter of doing it.
That's it. That's it. Well, cheers to the weekend, my friend. Right. I thank you for being here.
Yeah, man. Great stuff. And I'm looking forward to next time. I appreciate it, Chris.
Looking forward to the next series. Who knows? Peace, buddy.
Thanks for listening. If you learned something or were inspired to try something new, please rate the podcast and share this episode with someone you know. If you'd like to learn more, visit and connect with me, James, at florissgroup.com, FLORISS group.com.
And if you want to connect with me, Chris, check out SiteShift, SIGHT shift.com. Peace.